Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out, and thank you very much to Fred and Susan Birnbaum for the sponsor of the shir in memory of Fred's mother, Esther Avshalom Pesach, whose yahrzeit is the 19th of Tevis. So as you can see by the note of the little red on our flyer, Avshalom is on our villains list. He's notorious as the son who rebelled against his father, who just happened to be King David, which is probably a pretty good reason to put him on the villains list, I would think. However, as Rabbi Turchiner pointed out in our introduction, sometimes the line between a hero and a villain is sometimes blurred. And if we analyze the story of Avshalom, this seems to be the case at some points along the way. As stated in the title of the shir, Avshalom was angry. But the question is, did he have a right to be angry? Were Avshalom's actions justified? So a little background. In Shmuel Bet, chapter 13, we read the tragic story of two of David HaMelech's children. Amnon is obsessed with his half-sister Tamar and tricks her into being secluded with her under the pretense of trying to help him recover from an illness, and he uses this opportunity to rape her. Then Avshalom, Tamar's brother, seeing that she is visibly shaken, finds out from her what happened and is understandably upset. Take a look at verse 20 on the last line of page 753 in your Tanakh. The verse says, when it records Avshalom's conversation with Tamar, Vayomer aleh Avshalom. Avshalom said to her, Achiha Aminon, Achicha imach. Has your brother Amnon been with you? V'ata chosi hacharishi. Right now, my sister, be silent, be quiet about it. Achihu, he's your brother. Al tishisi es libech udavar hazeh. Don't concern your heart over this matter. Don't dwell on it. And the pasuk continues, V'teshev Tamar v'shomema beis Avshalom achiha. And Tamar dwelled and was devastated in the house of her brother Avshalom. So I ask you, what do you think about Avshalom's reaction?
Very passive. It says don't do anything about it.
So on one hand, he says, don't do anything about it, don't dwell on it. Any redeeming parts of his reaction?
It's kind of like Rabbi and Shimon when their sister was kidnapped.
That he was very angry.
They
That's
planned the future.
that right. There was a similar anger about that.
They couldn't do anything right at that time.
Right.
They were sneaky.
Right, and perhaps they felt they needed to strategize a little bit. So on one hand, Avshalom tells Tamar not to concern herself about it, seemingly kind of passive. On the other hand, he seems to be the only one there. He sees his sister visibly shaken, and he seems to be the only one there who is available to offer comfort to her. So, and perhaps even when he tells her not to dwell on it, maybe he's suggesting this as a therapeutic way. Whether this is correct or not, perhaps he wanted her to move past it. And if you look at source 1, the Metzudas David says, "Vata," he says, and now hoil kvar naseh, because this has already happened. V'charishi al tibazi oso. Be silent and don't despise him, referring to Amnon, ki alo achichu, for is he not your brother? V'roi l'chos al kavodo. And it's proper for you to be merciful on his honor, to spare his honor, not to not to embarrass and disgrace your brother. So it sounds like he was perhaps he was protecting Amnon. He understands why she's upset, but we don't want the dirty laundry to air out in public. So it sounds like Avshalom maybe was thinking a little bit more about himself. However, in source 2, the Malbim says, don't dwell on this matter. Don't dwell on this because what happened has happened. So with these two explanations, the Metzudas David suggests that maybe he's concerned about his honor, the honor of his family, but maybe according to the Malbim, he was trying to help her cope. He was trying to help her move past it. And again, whether psychologically, therapeutically this would be correct is very questionable. But perhaps he is, in fact, coming from a place of genuine concern. So let's take a look at their father, David HaMelech's reaction. Look at verse 21 on page 755. So it describes David's reaction when he hears about this. It says, "Melech David shama kol hadvarim ha'ele vayichar lo ma'od." He heard about all these things and he was greatly upset. He was greatly angry. And in source 3, the Malbim says, "Melech David chara lo ma'od." He was very angry. Ulam lo hachichu hazeh. Nevertheless, he didn't rebuke Amnon over this. The Chozeh orer sinas Avshalom. And because of David's reaction, this angered Avshalom. So what do you think? Do you think this is a legitimate reason for Avshalom to be angry? Seemingly, yeah. That he saw his sister being violated, disgraced, and seemingly his father's reaction, he is a little bit lukewarm to it. Again, it's maybe one son against his daughter. It's hard to pick between children, but it's justifiable that a stronger reaction may have been expected of David. So far, what do we consider Avshalom? Does he seem like a hero, villain, somewhere in the middle? He's sympathetic. So that's certainly a positive quality. I'm sorry? Right. He wants justice. And it seems like he's justifiably angry about that. So far, I'm not sure that we put Avshalom necessarily with a little red mark next to him. However, what happens next is that, perhaps even to make Avshalom more angry. So Avshalom kills Amnon. He takes revenge upon his half-brother. And again, it's difficult. It's one son against another. And David HaMelech is angry over this. It says that he mourns Amnon, even though David HaMelech was clearly upset at Amnon for what he did to his daughter. I guess it was still his son, and he was angry at his other son for killing him. So he exiles Avshalom, and David was convinced, after a period of time, David was convinced to allow Avshalom to return, though for 2 years, David is unwilling to welcome Avshalom back. He's unwilling to speak to him. We do find eventually, at the urging of his advisors, that a reunion is arranged. But if you notice, before the reunion is described, the Navi, the Tanakh, seems to go on a tangent to describe Avshalom's hair. Take a look in Parak 14, chapter 14, verse 25, on page 759. So Avshalom is back. It's before he meets David. And what does the verse say? Avshalom lo haya ish yafeh b'chol Yisrael. No one in Israel was so admired for his beauty as Avshalom. lahalel ma'od mikach ragla biad kadkado lo haya bo mum. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, there was not any type of blemish. He was a very good-looking guy. He was the most handsome person in the entire land. But it seems strange. Why is it first it described as the murder, him being exiled, him on his way to come back, and then it's just talking about his hair. So perhaps we can understand something deeper about Avshalom through the description of his hair. If you look at source 4, the Radak points out this confusing order of events, that he's coming back and now we're describing his hair. The Radak says in source 4, Avshalom lo haya ish yafeh samach. So why does it say that Avshalom was the most beautiful person in the land? It says samach l'siper hameret shemarad be'aviv. So it tells about right before he starts his rebellion against his father, which we'll take a look at shortly. It says siper ma garam lo. It tells what caused this. Ki haya yaveh b'chol Yisrael lo yakamohu v'nisgoya biyofav uvesaro v'teshev ein roi lemlucha v'nei David kamohu. That it says that there was no one whose beauty or hair compared to his, and he thought there was no one else from the sons of David HaMelech who was worthy of the kingship. And perhaps he heard that it was in his father's heart to crown Shlomo as his successor, and he rebelled against his father. And as we'll see shortly, he stole the heart of Israel. The Talmud takes note of Avshalom's vanity, which, as the Radak just says, is mentioned right before his rebellion, because it may in fact have been a cause and contributed in some way. The Talmud says, Avshalom is God besaro. Avshalom was excessively proud of his hair. Taraban Avshalom besaro mara. Therefore, he sinned due to his hair. The Talmud says this very clearly, that his vanity sparked or was a contributing factor to his ultimate rebellion. So we see here that perhaps Avshalom's actions were not the justified anger, perhaps about wrongdoing to his sister, but maybe it was envy for the throne. And as we see in the beginning of chapter 15, verse 1, page 759. So Avshalom already starts to conduct himself in a little bit of a regal manner. It says, "Vayihi macharei kain," after all these events pass, "Ve'aslo Avshalom markava v'susim v'chamishim ish ratzin lefanav." He got a new chariot and horses and a lot of people, a lot of big entourage. Not only that, the Metzudas David in source 6 points out, when it says Macharei Cain, at what point was Avshalom starting to act like the king? The Metzudas David in source 6 says, Acha shemoko lo aviv alavono. It was after his father, King David, had forgiven him. So perhaps, maybe it was time to stop. What happened to Tamar was no easy thing for any family to deal with, and whether or not David's reaction was proper or could have been stronger is definitely something to question. But it seems like at this point he obviously forgave him for killing his other son Amnon, so maybe it was time to move on. And what else? The Rabbi says that he got this big entourage, 50 men to run before him. The Radak in source 7 points out, Shelo haya mederach malcha Yisrael laharbo susin. It wasn't the way even of kings to amass so many horses. Kamosh as Hiru HaTorah, as the Torah commands, that a king shouldn't amass too many horses and too many wives. And it says, Davar Hazeh Davar Gadol B'Chok Avshalom Ki Lo Haya Melech. And this was especially significant because Avshalom wasn't king. He was acting in ways, in lavish ways that even a king, the Torah says, shouldn't act. But Avshalom wasn't king, but he's starting to think that he may be in that role. If you look on page 759, now Avshalom, we'll see, he becomes a little bit of an opportunist. What would Avshalom do? The pasuk says that he would rise early and stand by the roads of the city gates, and whenever a man had a case with another person, would come for judgment, Avshalom would schmooze with them. He'd say, "What town are you from?" And he said, "I'm from such a town." And "What tribe are you from?" "I'm from such a tribe." And then Avshalom would say, after schmoozing for a little bit, "You know what? It sounds like your side of the story is right." And he went on. He says, so. And what does he say in verse 4, page 759? He said, "Vayomer Avshalom mi yisimini shofet ba'aretz." Only if I was appointed king, v'alai yavo kol ish asher yeh lo riv u'mishpat v'hitzdak tov. That if only I was appointed judge, I would judge him fairly. So what does it sound like? The current system isn't so good. It's a long line. Maybe you don't always get maybe your side of the case doesn't always win. But if only I were in charge, you'd be right every time, and you'd hear your case. So Mitzudas David said, what did he mean by this? I would pay full attention. And sounds like, things would be a little bit better under me. And it says that he stole the hearts of the people of Israel. And the Rabbi says in source 9, you can have Avshalom as Lev Anshi Yisrael. What does it mean that he stole the hearts of the people? Ratzalomer, meaning Be'elu Aksavim Ke'ilu Ganav Libam. With these falsehoods. I don't know if you were going to someone and his verdict would come out in favor of you every time, he'd schmooze with you. So it might be enticing, but he wasn't really looking at their cases fairly. He was an opportunist. He was trying to gain favor with them. So now we see that Avshalom, at this point, do we see is he hero, villain? Where are we holding now? He's a politician. Okay, so first at the beginning, he's justifiably angry. We have no indication that he's a villain. Now he's a little bit of a politician. Obviously we don't know any politicians like that, but he's a slick. He's a little bit of a con artist. So maybe unclear that he's a villain, but if he was so angry at his father for not responding to the rape of his sister sufficiently, okay, well, that doesn't mean he doesn't have to start trying to take the throne. So it sounds like now his motivation might be a little bit different. And after some time, Avshalom's intentions become even more clear. If you look on page 761, chapter 15, verse 11. So what did he do? So he asked to travel to a different part of the country, and David HaMelech allowed two escorts to go with him. So what would he do? He had a letter saying that these two escorts could accompany him. What do you do if you want to build up more of a following, more of an entourage? So you show the letter that says that two people are allowed to accompany him. You show that to 100 people. So then instead of 2 people, you have 200 people with you. You have 200 people on your side. And the pasuk says, as Avshalom halchu masayim ish, he got 200 men, Yerushalayim, krum behokim letumim, they come in pairs, below yadu kol davar. And they were unsuspecting. He would say, oh, look, can you help me out? And there's no from my father. Then you go to two other people. So they didn't expect this. And through his political prowess, he was able to build up a following. He was able to slander his father and then get more people in his entourage. So at this point, how do we view Avshalom? Do we think that his intentions and his anger at David HaMelech is justified? His desire to usurp the throne? Right, now we see he's tricking people, he's amassing his entourage, and whatever anger he had towards his father about not responding harshly enough to Amnon about the rape of his sister, now it seems like his motivations are entirely different. And long story short, he, with the followers that he amasses and through tricking and gaining favor with some of David's advisors, he starts a rebellion, and then at the end of the day, David's side wins. And what happens? Look at page 769, chapter 18, verse 9. It says that at the point when the battle was almost over, Avshalom encountered some of David's followers. He was riding on a mule, and as the mule passed the tangled branches of an elm tree, his hair got caught. So he was held between heaven and earth. And so we see now, okay, back to his hair. So as the Gemara had said, his hair ends up being what motivated it. That the self-interest that came from his hair, that came from his vanity, was something that maybe was happening the whole time. And maybe despite any other justifiable, perhaps, motivations, when he was coming from the perspective of his own vanity, of his own self-interest, that really puts him in the villain category, because he's no longer acting for the good of others, he's acting for the good of himself. And we see when he rebels against his father, as source 11 mentions, among the other things that he did, he had relations with 10 of his father's concubines. So therefore, it was pierced by 10 spears. And he said he stole the hearts of the people, as we saw before, that he would schmooze with them, that he through falsehoods, he would try to gain their favor. So therefore, he was held, he took 3 spears through his heart. I think the account of Avshalom teaches us a very important point, and a point that can be difficult to internalize and to evaluate with our own motivations. That while anger that may be justified over a terrible violation, and anger that there was a lack of sufficient response may be justified, we have to be cognizant of our motivations. Are our motivations for the concern of others, or they, even from the beginning, as we saw, perhaps it was even to protect his own honor? But even when we have a legitimate cause, we have to be conscious of what's driving it, because something that could start out being justifiable, being legitimate, can turn out to be an absolute rebellion, an absolute selfish endeavor. And we see this with Avshalom. He started out perhaps justified, but then completely changed to the red box, to the villain box, when he rebelled against his father in order to usurp the throne for himself. Thank you so much.
Rabbi Hecht has given you a 3-minute breather until 3:30, but 3:30 is Satan, so don't be late.